Well, hey everybody, glad to be with you for another one of our Zoom business boosts. And I'm super excited about today because my good friend Lisa Moser is our guest presenter, and she is going to share a topic that's really important to us about how our communication skills, our speaking skills can really impact our business. And so I know she has a great presentation prepared. Lisa and I do some presenting together. I've known her for quite a while. And just to kind of give you a brief bio of her, she's been a communication and speaking expert and actually an international spokesperson with more than 30 years of experience. She's collaborated with and represented many renowned organizations. She is skilled in effective communication, stage presence, and connecting with diverse audiences of all sizes. And she actually founded what she calls Connect for Impact, which offers training courses, masterminds, speaking engagements, and workshops. And she's also the author of three books, a wife, a mom of four, and two grandbabies, which I know she's loving life in that world right now. So Lisa,
Absolutely.
welcome to our business boost for the month.
Thanks, Chris. I'm so excited to be here. You know me, this is a very passionate, very important topic for me, and I love when I get to share it with, entrepreneurs, business owners, and people
Mhm.
in general. I think it's very, very important. So I'm excited to share. I'm going to come fast and hard with everyone because it's just like there's so much information I want to give you, but I'm excited. I really
Yeah.
hope this helps some people.
Well, and I know you may want to give just before you even get your presentation going, just unless you're going to talk about it later, but just, this is something that you didn't necessarily focus on with business leaders for the longest time. It was more authors, coaches, speakers helping them and even pageant participants, but you started to see a problem in the business world, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and I will kind of get into that a little bit later, but it is very true. I started out a long time ago helping people with interview skills, which I think is really important, especially even today. Interview skills and helping entrepreneurs, and I got into working with an international publishing company and worked with them and their authors. They found out that most authors don't know how to speak about their books. And so I developed a speaking course for them, and I've developed speaking courses for several other companies, just teaching people the importance of it. And you and I always had those conversations, Chris, when you would say, "Oh my gosh, I just listened to somebody speak, they need your help," or "I just did this, they need your help." And I would be like, "I know." And my husband would tell me the same thing. And so then it was just like, you know what? I really need to start teaching this more to people who want to develop their careers, who want to, continue to grow in what they're doing, grow their businesses, things like, and even into the corporate realm. You know, Chris, I've traveled and spoke to executives and CEOs, CFOs, because nobody wants to tell a CFO, a CEO, hey, you need to communicate better because nobody's going to tell them anything, right? And then so they don't know. And so they give me permission to say, here's what needs to happen if you want to become a better communicator. So yeah, I love what I do. It's a topic that doesn't matter who, whether I'm speaking to a bunch of high school seniors or CEO executives to corporations. It's
Yeah.
all the same. People need to understand the power of communication and speaking.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can share
Okay.
your screen. Now you got a great presentation for us and turn you loose here.
All right, let's do it. And you're going to tell me, Chris, if everything's working properly.
I see your presentation.
Great. It's up there and ready to go.
Yep.
All right, let me move this around a little bit so I see you guys, so I want to make sure I can get you where I need you. Put you down there. Okay. So I want you to imagine a world where your presence commands respect and your words, they captivate attention and your influence drives action. Because in today's competitive business world, mastering the art of communication and speaking, it's not just a skill, it truly is a strategic advantage. It's why I do what I do. I want you to think about this. Every interaction that you have, every presentation that you deliver, every conversation that you engage in is a chance to help shape how others perceive you. It's more than just conveying information. It's about clarifying and crafting an identity that resonates with clarity, confidence, and connection. And today I want to help you understand just how to leverage these communication skills to increase your impact and transform your career by using your voice as a powerful tool for success and influence. Now, I want to be honest with you. Most people were taught how to, do our jobs. I don't know why my thing is not continuing. There we are. We do our jobs, we hit our targets, but no one pulls us aside and says, "Hey, here's how." I'm sorry, my thing is freaking out on me.
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna
not,
go
your
back
slide didn't
here
change
and
over.
I think I'm hitting the wrong go next button. So we're gonna go back.
Yeah, we're on your title slide right now.
You're still on the title slide?
Yeah.
Okay, so something's not working right. That's what's happening. Let me go here. All right, guys, see, I told you. This meeting is being recorded. Okay. So you're seeing my title slide?
Yeah, I see your title slide and your,
Okay.
now I'm back to your Canva.
Okay, hold on. Sorry.
We love
We're gonna
technology around here.
technology. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Got it. Um,
The audience went, yeah, there you go, get rid of that thing.
what do you, okay, that's not right. Okay.
We even practiced this yesterday.
I
People
have been
wanted to make
practicing.
sure that it was easy from Canva, but sometimes we run into these hiccups.
Yeah, it's glitches in systems where they get on top of each other. Is what's happening here. Okay. How about now? What do you see?
Click on your next slide to go next and see what it does. Yep, there you go.
Woohoo! All right. Let's go back to what we're not taught. No one pulls us aside and says, here's how you build trust in a conversation. Here's how you show up with authority before you even speak. And here's how you lead a room before you even lead a team. But the truth is, like I said right here, those skills aren't extra. They are essential. They are what separate people who blend in from those who stand out and stand up and move up. But the good news is you don't need to be a natural born speaker and you don't need to have a fancy title. You need two things. You need the right strategies, and more importantly, you need to have the willingness to practice them. Okay. So today we're going to kind of dive into this because, like I said, we're going to go quick because I have so much I want to tell you. So today I want to share 3 fun facts. Fun fact number 1, public speaking is the number 1 fear of Americans. It's really the number 1 fear worldwide. The official name for it is called glossophobia. Fun fact number 2 is I had it. I was petrified of speaking in public. I believe my theory, maybe you guys can relate, maybe not. My theory is it all started for me around middle school, right? Middle school is that awkward age. They were awkward when I was in school and they're still awkward today. Middle schoolers, extremely awkward time, right? They're jockeying for position. They don't know. There's, all the things. For me, being in middle school and then all of a sudden being told, hey, we want you to read this book and then we want you to stand up in front of the room and give an oral book report. Or we want you to pick a president and then next week you're going to stand up and give an oral report about the president. I would panic. I hated doing that. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. But standing up in front of people, especially your peers who you believe are going to make fun of you, whisper behind your back, and if you mess up, heaven forbid that you're going to be the topic at lunch, right? Or recess, because people are going to be talking about how terrible you did. It started then and it followed me all through high school into my early 20s. Fun fact number 3, as Chris kind of mentioned in the beginning, I loved watching beauty pageants when I was a little girl, from the time I can remember. I tell people it kind of reminds me of today with Disney princesses, right? We didn't have the Disney Channel back when I was growing up, a long, long time ago. You had to go to the movie if you were going to go see a Disney princess. But today, kids can turn it on and see this all the time. You can't go to the mall without seeing little girls walking around in their little tutu dresses and what Disney princess they are. So for me, when I would see a pageant on television, and they were all always on television, that was my fairy tale. That was my Disney princess, the gowns, the lights, all the grandeur of a pageant. And then somebody was crowned the princess. And I loved it. And I loved watching it clear through when I was in, I still do, but in my early 20s. And never one time, never do I ever remember watching and saying, I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to be up there someday. Because that wasn't the world that I knew, right? I didn't know that world. I didn't know anything about it. They were women that were on a different planet. I never dreamed that I'm never meeting anybody like that, nor being like that. But I just loved watching it. And then one day, when I was in my early 20s, I met a woman who literally changed the trajectory of my life. And I did community theater. We had a wonderful community theater in our town, and I did community theater as part of the group. And every year, our community theater we hosted the Miss Heart of Ohio pageant. And the girl who won this got to go on and compete at Miss Ohio America. And so I was going down to kind of take some stuff down there to help out. And a mutual friend came up to me and said, I want you to meet Diane. Diane just moved here from Alabama. She doesn't know anybody, but she's really cool. She's helping the contestants. She's a pageant coach, and her niece just competed at Miss America. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I didn't know anything about this world. Number one, didn't know there was such a thing as a pageant coach. What is that? But number two, I just couldn't wait to meet her and ask her all the questions of this world that I love watching. And I'll never forget walking into the room she was in. I remember she stood up and looked at me. And the first thing she said to me in her little Southern accent was, why aren't you in this pageant? And I was like, oh, you're so sweet, and I appreciate that. It's not for me. But so we got to know each other and we did become friends. And she was always kind of poking at me that I needed to do a pageant. And then one day there was an article in a magazine that was to apply to be accepted to compete at Miss Ohio USA, which is there's Miss America, there's Miss USA. And so she's like, you need to do this. And so, a long story, she hounded me to do it. And I kept saying, I don't know anything about this. And she said, I will help you. I will teach you everything that I know. I often say she was like a retired football coach just wanting to get back in the game with me or something. And so she convinced me I could do it. Again, saw something in me I did not see in myself. And even though I did this, didn't make my fear of public speaking go away. But what we did is, yes, I learned how to walk gracefully in an evening gown. Yes, I learned how to pretend like I'm confident in a bathing suit and high heels on a stage in front of thousands of people. But what we worked on more was interview skills, communication, and speaking. This was transformative for me. And I went, competed. There were 189 women there competing on a stage for over a weekend, and I won. And I had the opportunity to go to Miss USA. And again, I tell people that to say it's not, oh, wow, look what I did, but look what the power of learning that skill did for me. I would have never have done anything like that before. And that's what I say. I've gotten to do so many things because I actually learned that skill set and honed in. I've not only been on the Miss USA stage, I went on and I've written 3 books. I've done, like I said, worked with pharmaceutical companies. I worked for the American Diabetes Association, Bristol Myers Squibb, Nationwide Insurance, a publishing company, developed courses on speaking, commercial work. And I tell you all this because it had nothing to do with anything but the power of communication, speaking, and believing in yourself and having that confidence that so many of us lack. And so that's why I tell you this. And this is why I think it's a valuable skill set that needs to be learned. None of this had to do, the majority of it, with that I was in a pageant. It was that I learned the skill set to continue on and do things that I never would have done. So how did I go from this scared 20-something year old to speaking on international stages all over sharing a voice for different companies, different organizations, and my passions as well. And that came from communication. So I want you to imagine standing in front of a room, conveying your ideas with confidence and clarity, and capturing the attention of every listener in that room. You see, public speaking, it's not just about delivering a message. It's about commanding a room. It's about influencing decisions. And it's ultimately about propelling your career. So we're going to jump right in. I want you to get your little pens and papers out. We're going to take some notes because I want to transition into this career defining skill that really can be the difference in your life, truly. So I want you to think about this. Everybody's probably heard this, and if you haven't, and this is the first time, it's been around forever. If you've done any kind of sales, I'm sure that this has been a topic. Attention is currency. If you've all heard that, right? If you can get attention, if you can keep attention, then you can direct attention to your ideas, your products, your services, whatever that is. Think of billboards, radio, TV commercials, right? If you're listening to a commercial, they have to get your attention and then they have to say something that's going to keep it and make you want it, and then they're going to direct it to, well, here's what you want to go buy, right? That's life. But I believe, for me, communication is the new currency. Because if you can communicate clearly, if you know how to engage effectively, then you can inspire action. You can drive change, achieve goals, make an impact with whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's your career, your message, your voice, your family, your kids, whatever. Okay? So I want you all to learn how to become a better leader whose voice can inspire, motivate, and drive success. It's great for team collaboration, building momentum, strategic decision making, customer service, long-term success can all have a lot of basis on how do you communicate and how do you lead a team. So we're going to talk about these three essentials when it comes to speaking and communication. Number one, you have to learn to be clear, concise, and compelling. You have to make sure your message is engaging enough to hold your audience's attention. Now, I want to do two things while we're on this slide. Number one, I'm going to be saying two words that so many people kind of have it misrepresented in their brain, okay? I'm going to use the word audience a lot. And most people, when you say audience, they immediately go to, oh, somebody's on a stage and there's your audience, or I'm in the audience and I'm watching a movie, right? It's always seems like it's a big thing. But right now, you all are my audience. And if Chris decided that he was going to start talking, then all of a sudden we would be Chris's audience. If you go into your boss's office and you're talking to your boss, he's your audience, he or she, or it's the other way around, right? Your audience can be one person or it can be 10,000 people. So I want you, when I'm talking about audience and this little conversation that we're having here, think about what is your audience? Is your audience the people at work? Or do you ever have to get in front of a boardroom and deliver your part of a presentation? Is your audience your children at home when you get home from work, right? Is it whomever you're speaking to? So when we speak about audience, think about how it relates to you in a situation. And I also use the word stage. And stage is what people think of as a stage, but it's also life, right? I mean, I think it was Shakespeare that said, "All the world's a stage, and we are mere players." Your world, your life that you live is a stage. And so I want you to think about it when we talk about audience and stage. What does that relate to when it comes to your situation? Okay. So you have to be clear. You have to make things easy to understand. So in your work-life balance, like I said, this can be talking to your kids or talking to people in a meeting. You have to make it easy to understand. You have to avoid vague language, focus on one idea at a time. And here's one of the most important things that I learned a long, long time ago. You have to speak as if someone is hearing your idea, whatever it is you're delivering, for the first time. So I learned this a long time ago when I was a spokesperson for the American Diabetes Association. So when I was speaking, I have been in diabetes awareness for 30 some years, right? So I had to keep in mind that when I was going to events and I was speaking, there were newly diagnosed people there. There were people that their kids had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Fun fact, only 10% of diabetics in the multi-millions of diabetics in the world, only 10% are type 1. Okay, it's an autoimmune, pancreas shuts down, don't have insulin, you don't live, right? Very type 2 is the other 90%. That's hereditary, it's lifestyle, it's all the things, medication, that. So when you're talking as from the American Diabetes Association, you're speaking to two hugely different populations of diabetes. Plus, you're talking to parents that child just got this. So I had to be very careful when I was speaking that I was speaking to the person in the room that knew nothing because I didn't want them to feel overwhelmed. I didn't want them to feel like they didn't understand, and I wanted them to feel heard. But I also had to make sure that the people in there were getting information that was helpful for them who have lived with it for 25 years, right? So you really have to learn. And that's where I learned the very important thing of speaking as if someone is just understanding this for the first time. You also have to be concise. Say more with less. Respect your audience's time and attention. Cut the fluff. Every word should have its place and use short sentences with strong verbs. Here's here's why, because like today, I knew I have a certain amount of time. That's why I say I'm going to go fast, guys, because there's so much I want you to understand and learn. And we do workshops, half day workshops with this stuff. But you have to understand your audience's time and attention. You guys do this in corporate and business, all the things. You might have a 10-minute meeting set up with your boss. You may be in an interview for a new job position where you know they're going to ask you questions and you have a short amount of time. This is so important to learn how to respect the time that your audience, that your person has given you, and then to be very clear and concise with what it is that you want to say in that time. So, for instance, you're in a boardroom and everybody in there has 10 minutes to talk about the part of the project that they're working on. Stick with that 10-minute time and be very concise with what you're saying. And then you have to make it compelling. You have to make people care about what you're talking about. You have to connect with your audience's values. Use stories, which we will talk about, stats, and emotions to create impact. And then you have to end with a clear takeaway, your call to action, right? So today, I do this presentation for, like I said, to seniors in high school, to CFOs, to CEOs, business owners, all the things in between. But for me, it's very important that I understand whom am I speaking to today? So even with Chris, I knew this was a chamber, so I knew it was businesses, but it's like, okay, Chris, can you tell me who's going to be on here today? Who's going to be listening and who might watch the recording and listen so that I can understand, okay, what the core value is of what everybody needs to learn, right? It's super important. And it's important for you as well when you're going to stand in front of people or when you're going to go in for that job interview, or the new position that you're talking to your boss about getting, right? You have to kind of know, be compelling and understand and how to connect with that person that you're going to be speaking with. Okay, super important. So why is it important? Effective relation or enhances professional relationships and builds trust, right? So number one, it enhances message delivery. We talked about that. Clarity ensures that your message is easily understood. Time efficiency. Professionals deal with busy schedules. We talked about that. If you're going in and you've got 10 minutes with a superior and you need to talk to them, you need to make sure you're being clear, concise, compelling, and get what you want out there said, what you want to say. It's great for audience engagement. It keeps your audience focused and invested in what you're saying, and it achieves objectives, whether you're trying to persuade somebody from some information that you're delivering, right? Or you're trying to motivate people. It increases the likelihood that your audience will respond positively to your message, and it improves decisions. So think about it. If you're going into an interview and you want this person to decide that you're the perfect person for the job, Your audience can quickly understand the key points that you're trying to make, and it makes it very much easier for them to make the informed decision that, yeah, man, she is really the best person for this job. So it's super important. Number two, we're going to talk about storytelling. Now, this is something I've been teaching for years, but I realized many years ago that this needed taught in corporate environment business owners as well, because it's a powerful tool. Like it says, it engages, resonates, connects with your audience on a deeper level. You want to make what you're saying more memorable, tell a story. It's super important. Now, in my world, I've been teaching this for a long time. I always have taught people, if you're going to stand up in front of people, you have to tell stories. You have to make them connect to you. You have to make the person kind of lean in and go, "What? Oh, I don't know about this," or I want to learn more. You have to do that. But even I was finding like it's in the publishing world when I was working with authors and speakers and all those people. I realized that just because somebody writes a book doesn't make it that they know how to talk about it. And I would always say, you have to learn how to talk about your book or your business. They just started a business. So I don't know. I just get so tongue tied. Listen, there's nobody who's going to be better at talking about what you do, talking about your business, talking about your book than you. And I started understanding that more and more people needed to learn this. It needed to be taught in professional situations, presentations, sharing in general. It's super important. Stories make you memorable. I'm going to give you some research. Research shows that people retain things 22 times more than in just stats and facts, okay? And when you share a stories, your message stays with your audience longer when the presentation is over. Here's an example, and I'll just take you back to my world when I would travel all over speaking about diabetes. I could say on a slide, and I've seen this a million times on a slide, an average person who's diagnosed, the 8-year-old that's diagnosed with diabetes, gives herself 4 shots a day. That's 1,460,000 shots a year. In 5 years, before the girl's 15, she's going to give herself 7,304 shots, right? And that's stats, right? And you're going to sit there and go, "Oh, wow." And then it's just going to leave your mind, right? But what I did was I took in my PowerPoint and I did a picture of a bucket dumped with all of these needles and syringes in it, and said, "This is how many shots my daughter has taken in her first year of life with diabetes." And she was 8 years old. 8 years old. And I told a little story about that, like when she was diagnosed and what happened. People resonate with that because they put their self in that situation with that audience. They put themselves in that. I remember when I was diagnosed. I remember when my daughter was. I remember that's why I got on the insulin pump. I mean, people can relate to it. So it's super important. Stories make your message memorable. And when you share real life experiences, your successes, your failures, the lessons that you learn, it builds authenticity. Audiences, remember, audience, one person, 10 people, 10,000. Audience are more likely to trust someone who's been there. How many of you have ever had or worked for someone in a corporate environment that is way up here on a level, and they do no wrong and they are so full of themselves, and you get around them and you're just like, you just don't relate to them, right? Because they just have this, let me just tell you, those people have been exactly where you are. And if they cannot share and share with you pieces of that, then they're not a good leader. Everybody should make people feel comfortable. If you are a junior financial analyst at a company and you are in contact with the CFO, that CFO should make you feel comfortable. If you do something or need corrected, it should be, I remember. I remember being there. I know it's probably a long time ago because you think I'm whatever you need to do. You need to relate to that person. And that's how you build credibility and trust with people. Stories create emotional connection. Like I just said, people are going to forget facts and data. You probably already forget. the how many people, how many shots, but you can envision the picture of all the syringe needles laying on a tabletop, right? You can envision that. Emotions drive engagement and actions. So you need to use storytelling to humanize your message. And they also help simplify complex ideas. A well crafted story can break down difficult concepts into relatable, digestible pieces. And it helps your audience connect the dots more easily when they're thinking about what you're saying. And that's what I said. This is so important in business. It's I don't know how many people can relate to this. This happens to me all the time, and it did even back in the day. You're somewhere and you're at a networking event and they're like, "Oh, everybody's going to go around the room and everybody take like 60 seconds, 90 seconds, tell us something about yourself." And people panic. I can do the same, it's like, "Oh, what do I hate this." And then it's like, "Well, I'm Lisa Moser. I live in Columbus. I have 4 kids. I work at ABC company. I'm really excited to be here." Right? That's what the majority of us do. But when you can learn, or how many of you have been like, "Hey, why don't you come up? You're at an event," and they're like, "Oh, Wendy, come on up and share. You just told me a story about something the other day. Come up here and share a little bit about this. What do you think?" And then you're like, "Oh man, I don't want to get up there and do that." Right? Or the head person's like, "Who wants to come up? Who wants to start?" And everybody's like, "Oh crap, I wish I was sitting in the back because I do not want to get up there." Right? We've all been there. If you learn, and I teach people this all the time, when it comes to speaking, core speaking, public speaking, you're talking about the same thing. You're talking about your business. You're going to get called up. You're going to speak. If you can get a core message down, then you can speak if somebody gives you 90 seconds. You can speak if somebody gives you 5 minutes. And you can speak if somebody says, "Hey, you want to be the keynote speaker for 45 minutes about this topic?" Yes, yes, and yes, because you have developed that core concept. And that's where so many people go wrong, is they don't take the time, even in corporate America, even in their jobs, to come and either brand themselves and who they are as a person, brand their career, what they do as a job, or brand their company and what the company means and how they are assessing that company, how they are working for that company. Stories are a great way to add into that time frame. So the power of storytelling makes your message stick. We talked about that. Stories create emotional connection. They simplify complex ideas. The stories make you memorable, and they inspire action. And if you've done any kind of sales, you've heard the old saying, "Facts tell, stories sell," because it's so true. Have you ever been and listened in on an insurance salesman that's going to tell you why you should buy his insurance? And they are going by the book on what all the stats are and why, and it's like you're bored out of your mind. But if you listen to somebody that goes in there and tells you a story about why it was important to him, what happened in his life that he needed it, and he's so glad that he had it, you remember, you connect to those things. Facts sell, tell, stories sell. So I want you to um, remember that great leaders and communicators move people to act, not by command, by compelling vision. Everything that's happened, the big things, all came from somebody's vision, right? You can take a business plan and put it on paper, but until you can bridge that gap between this information and the transformation of the business and what your career and what you want to happen, that all comes from communication. It's just a business plan on a piece of paper. But if you have the correct communication and speaking, you can take this career path. I do this with my kids. Tell me what you want in this job that you are. Where do you see yourself? What is it you want to go? And how do you get there? It's not by, "Okay, then dive in and read more about this and learn more about this." No, it's getting out there and doing it and learning this skill set, because it's going to get you further than anything. Number 3 is establishing a connection with your audience. It's vital for career success, because we have a very competitive work environment today. And I promise you, if you become good at this, it will set you apart. I've had so many people that we have worked together that have said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I got that job. I got that promotion. I whatever it is," because they're learning how to communicate better about who they are, about what they can do, and they understand the power of interview skills and how do you I always say, how do you guide an interview to where you're truly holding the key to the interview, but the interviewer thinks that they are. It's a big important thing. Authenticity and connection is the most powerful thing. Personal experiences, challenges, failures. So many people in corporate America and high up businesses think that that is not relevant or important, that they've already paid their dues, that they've got where they've gotten, and that they just need to do their job, right? But you need to share personal experiences, challenges, failures, right? And I want to do that. I want to share a little story here. This is the truth about when I learned the importance of connection and authenticity. You have to remember when I was coming up in this, like Chris said, I've been doing this for over 30 years. When I was coming up, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have videos teaching you things. We didn't have courses that you could grab online. We didn't have email. We didn't have the World Wide Web, right? So it was literally, it was just sink or swim. After I won Miss Ohio and went on to Miss USA, it was sink or swim, and I just had to learn. I always tell people I learned how to tread water because it was all new to me. I had went from fearing public speaking to being thrust onto the public speaking circuit, and I had to learn. And I learned through experiences, and I learned what worked and I learned what didn't. And this was a long time ago when I learned the power of authenticity and connection. Number one, when I won my first pageant title, the feedback that I got from people, which I didn't understand it, but it was truth, and then I got it later, was that that I won interview. Every time I won interview. And it was because people just felt like I was being myself, like they felt like they were just talking to me, right? And so that is super important. And then one day I was the national spokesperson for the American Diabetes Association. Bristol Myers Squibb Pharmaceutical Company had just published my children's book. And my goal was to get this children's book out into the hands of the millions of people that needed to help their children understand diabetes. There was nothing. I know you people on here are way too young to remember going to the library to the card catalog, but you would go to the library to the card catalog and you'd scroll through and you'd look for the little card about whatever you were looking for. And there was no books that could help me teach children about diabetes. So I wrote one. Long story, Bristol Myers Squibb published it, and they wanted me to come to this huge professional medical conference and speak. There were 250 doctors from all over the world that were invited to this conference, and it was a weekend event. And the main thing was there were going to be these two speakers. There was this big luncheon, and then I was the keynote speaker after lunch. What they told me is they were going to give doctors, everybody that was in that room, they were going to give them multiple copies of my book to take back, to put in their practices, put in the hospitals that they, worked at. So I knew that my message was going to get out there, and that's all I cared about. So when they asked me, I said, "Yes, I will do it. I cannot wait. This is perfect." So fast forward, I go to this event and I go for this lunch session. And I was sitting at the head table at lunch, sitting there and watching the two speakers ahead of me. And these two speakers had these huge PowerPoint presentations. One was a scientist, I believe, and one was some pharmaceutical guy. And I learned two things at this medical conference. Number one, I learned that they are super extremely boring. I mean, these people, they had these screens, and on the screens were all these words and things, symbols, and they literally stood the whole time like this, pointing and speaking like the Charlie Brown teachers. It was wah, 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 wah. And I remember thinking, oh, this is brutal. These people need help. But then I kept thinking, you know what? No, I'm not their ideal audience. They're speaking to the 250 doctors out there. They probably are all thrilled and can understand all of this. But I also learned, fun fact too, is that imposter syndrome can hit anyone at any time. And I just sat there and thought, These doctors, I was back in middle school, y'all. I was back in middle school thinking they're going to laugh at me, they're going to talk behind my back, and then at lunch they are going to just be like, "Why? Who the heck brought this girl in?" That blah blah blah, all the things, and I just wanted to leave. And my husband was with me and he said, "Lisa, stop, get out of your head, just go up there and do what you always do." And it was like, "Yep, I had to kind of retrain my brain and everything that I teach people." And I went up there and I delivered my message. My back in the day, keynotes were an hour. They don't do that so much anymore because we don't all have those attention spans, but it was for an hour. I went there and delivered my talk. They applauded. I went, I waited for a break. I got my stuff and I got the heck out of Dodge. I couldn't get out of there fast enough because I was just mortified. Fast forward 3 weeks, I had a meeting with Bristol Myers Squibb ADA. I had met with them once a quarter. We would discuss up and coming events, look at our calendars, what I could do, what I couldn't. I walked in there and she said, "Well, before we get started, I want to talk about something." She reaches in her desk and she pulls out this stack of cards and letters. And she says, "It's very customary when we do these events that we get thank you cards." Again, this is before email, y'all. We get thank you cards and things from the doctors because they really do wine and dine them. I mean, it's a big thing. And she said, "We got these," and she goes, "but there was kind of an underlying thread between the majority of these notes and things that we got." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, they're going to let me go." I mean, I was just mortified because this was my heart. And she said, basically, the underlying thread was, "Thank you for a breath of fresh air in a normally boring medical conference. And number two, Lisa taught us a new way to communicate with our patients on a level that it might be easier for them to understand." And that's when I realized at that moment what it meant to just be authentically who you are, connect with people the way that you know how to connect, and share your challenges, your failures, and all of those things. And I also learned that doctors also think their medical conferences are extremely boring because they are. So, why do you need to show this? Because it builds trust, it establishes a stronger connection, shows you're approachable and relatable, it engages with your audience, and it encourages openness. And I will tell you, this will differentiate you. It truly will, because not too many people are willing to show who they truly are. So, I want, in a world where so many people present this polished, sometimes insincere image, authenticity and vulnerability will help you stand out. I want you all to be confident enough in yourself that it's okay to be who you are. Help build that trust and credibility with people. And I'm going to end on this. I do a whole workshop on how do you build confidence? How do we do this? How do we present ourselves this way? And we can't get into all that today, but I will say, be clear, concise, compelling, tell stories, establish a connection with your audience. These things are powerful when it comes to building relationships, achieving your goals, growing your career, but you have to build confidence. Here's what I want you to know. Look at that, building confidence. It is a verb, it's an action. Building something requires something from you. It requires work, practice, patience, putting yourself out there every chance that you get. It's not easy. Every single person I have worked with people whose names will that you would know if I said them. And I've worked with, the author who just published her first book. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody deals with lack of confidence at times, or what we call imposter syndrome, just thinking, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" Confidence is building. Sorry, there's a guy in my yard standing right by my window. It freaked me out. He's putting stuff on the yard. Anyway, confidence is built by not avoiding your fear. It's by not saying, "Oh, I'll get up there and do that when I get a little more confident in what I'm doing," or I'll offer to be the speaker when I get a little more confident, or I'll raise my hand to go first and say how I feel when I get more confidence. It's not. You're not going to build confidence. You build it by facing it head on. And what's going to happen is you're going to prove to yourself that you can do more than you thought you could do. So I teach people all the time, how can you just think about it really quickly? How can I walk into a, if I'm going to a networking event this week, how can I change like how I'm feeling when I get there? It's from, I just want to sit in the back quietly, please don't pick on me, I'm just there because I'm supposed to be, to how can I do that? You have to develop a strong stage presence. Now remember what we talked about, your stage presence is how you show up. Stage presence is how you show up. Stand tall. I mean, there's a difference, and it's hard and when you're not in person to teach this, but then somebody who walks in and is kind of closed off and they're just sitting in the back, kind of closed in, like don't bother me, opposed to somebody who walks in just a little taller. It's called commanding the room. How do you command a room? Commanding a room, people take that wrong and they think that you're supposed to walk in and be the life of the party and everybody's supposed to look at you. That's not it. It's just commanding the space that you're in, right? It's about your body language. How do you command the space? How do you walk in and feel confident? Well, you have to psych yourself up for it. I used to do that all the time. I could walk into a room. I can walk into a room and I'm doing a workshop and I'm in. But I can also walk into a room of a bunch of people I do not know, and I can have a tendency, because I truly am an introvert, I can have a tendency just to kind of sit back, sit in the back, just kind of do my thing, let everybody else do their thing, and then just not bring attention to myself. But if you're in a networking event or something with your job or your business, you can't do that. So you have to psych yourself up. Sometimes you have to have a self-talk, pep talk, because it's just like, okay, how do you do it? Just stand taller, command your space. Your body language needs to be a little more open. Make eye contact when you talk to people. This is something, these last few things I work with people really a lot on. It's amazing. Eye contact, visual and vocal technique. There's a whole thing to that. But more importantly, you have to get out there and do it. Okay? So at the end of the day, businesses don't grow because of strategies. They don't grow because, like we talked about, strategies that are on paper. They grow because of conversations that inspired action. Careers don't just form because of hard work. They advance when people notice you, they listen to you, and they trust you. So communication is that bridge to both of those. So if you want to lead more effectively, grow your business, create real impact, don't just work harder on what you do. Work smarter on how you connect, because the way you communicate determines how far you and your business can go. So I hope this helps you understand how you truly can leverage these communication skills to increase your impact, to transform your career by using your voice as a powerful tool for success and impact. Because communication isn't just a skill, it truly is your competitive edge. So I want to thank you all for your attention. I know I talk really fast. When I'm in a workshop, I promise I talk slower, but it's just like, oh, I just want you guys to get this piece so that at least you walk out of here and go, okay, I can grab a hold of this and I can put something into play that I learned today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can look at everybody's beautiful face. There you go. So thanks, you guys.
Well, thanks, Lisa. This is great. We have a few minutes left, so anybody have any questions for Lisa? Anything that you'd like to maybe expand on, something that stuck out while she was talking, or scenarios or anything? I mean, she's kind of been there, done it all.
I have a question.
Yes, Gina.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Gina. I've worked for iHeartRadio for the last 20 years on the radio, and I feel like I'm pretty poised and confident and I
Yeah.
can get my message across. But some feedback that I typically get, and I always feel like it's just people that are threatened by me, is usually, oh, she's full of herself, or oh, she thinks she's all that. How do you get past that mindset? And, that's kind of been my biggest challenge and struggle, is to not put that off.
Well, girl, let me just tell you, I can relate to that 100%.
I figured you could.
Yeah, because a lot of times, especially when I was a lot younger, I would get
Hmm.
that a lot, like, oh, she thinks she's that because of this or whatever. And it really isn't. And what I've learned is, and I don't know, maybe you already do this, or maybe this would be something that you could do a little more
Hmm.
that would help that. Number one, I'm going to tell you, people are always going to be that way. People are,
Right.
you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have people. What frustrates me so much, I wrote a book about it, and it's called Unhackable Force. It's about women, but it's about women supporting women. And we always say we want to support women, but then women are the first people to tear women down. It's
Exactly.
and I get it. I've been there, done that. I get it. But here's what I've found. I think that if you haven't, or if you've done it, maybe do it a little bit, is what we talked about when you sharing stories about how, like, things where you failed, things where you've kind of fallen short, or where you something where, oh my gosh, you guys, you're not going to believe what happened to me last night. I was walking in and I thought I had, was ready, and then oh my gosh, I whatever. You know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
sharing that you are human, that you don't take yourself too seriously. And so there is a line between confident,
Hmm.
which you have to be, especially if you're a speaker and you're teaching,
Hmm.
and being overly, like I say with my CFOs, my CEOs, my high executives, and being cocky, right?
Right.
There's a fine line between that. And I think
Hmm.
if you can learn to balance that a little bit more people will relate to you. I'm not saying you personally, but as a,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And maybe you do that, and you're just dealing with people who are just, that's just who they are. Especially when
Right.
you are out there in the public eye, forget it. Just forget it.
I know. I feel like you can't ever make everybody
You're
happy,
not.
but
You're not. Just be yourself. Keep doing what you do. Love what you do, and make yourself a little relatable now and again if you think that might help. See if it helps. Who knows?
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
That was a great
appreciate that.
question, though. I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you
Yeah.
for sharing with us today.
Welcome. Any other questions, comments, anything? Remember, I will say something. Why? Because I'm usually the one that sits in the back and won't say anything. Anytime you get a chance to speak, speak, even if it's just whatever. It's okay.
So Lisa, I have one. So we
Okay.
talked a lot about what to kind of put into your presentation, stage presence, and things like that. But what about how do you prepare for that speech? What are some tips on preparing so you're ready to go? I mean, I don't know. Should you use bullet points? Should you write it all out? Should you practice it? I know I do that a lot, and Chris hates it because I'll walk around the office and I'll be like, okay, here we go. And I just have to talk it through because if I don't speak it out loud, it
Yep.
doesn't feel real to me.
Yep.
So, what tips would you have to actually prepare that actual speech or presentation?
Yes, so I'll have two different ones. Number one, I always tell people, yes, if you're going up, we'll say, and delivering your keynote or a talk
Mhm.
for the first time, the second time, yeah, it's okay to use bullet points, have a sheet of paper. I always tell people, I would rather somebody have a sheet with bullet points on it where they're looking down at their notes or whatever, keeps them on track. I've always done that. That's how I work. I have bullet points, story, bullet points. Even here, it's just like bullet point. It just keeps me on track with my time, right? I can add more bullet points if I have more time. I can take bullet points out if I have less time. Bullet points are great. I know what story, what I'm trying to say, convey through each. How do I get good at that? By what you just said, Wendy, practicing it. I have a wall here of pictures and everything that has heard my talk a million times when I'm preparing a new keynote, right? If I'm preparing something new, I will sit here, I will stand, I will deliver, I will deliver, I will do it over and over again. Then I'll realize that story is irrelevant. It's not kind of, that needs to be pulled. This needs to go into the first half. That's the only way for me personally, you're going to get it so that you're delivering it and sounding like you're truly in the moment and not reading. Okay. And you have to do it a hundred times. So Chris, leave her alone when she's walking around the office. That's what she,
Don't give her that advice. Come on.
I'm so happy you said that, Lisa. Oh, Chris, you
Wendy, she
can't
said
yell
she
at me
talks to
about
her
that
wall. You can
anymore.
talk to your wall.
but you can also, Wendy, which is what I do, is I'll lock myself in my office. So like in one of
Mhm.
the little rooms, just go in, shut the door, and just stand there and say it
Yeah.
just like you would. Don't whisper, just stand there and talk about it. Somebody will think you're in a meeting. They don't know what you're talking about, but just, deliver it over and over. Here's the thing. Here's the second thing I want to tell you. If you tend to find yourself always speaking about the same thing, then you need one talk, one powerful keynote, one. And then you can deliver it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes. And once I tell people, once you develop this and you get it inside of you, you can pick up wherever, and it's not a, oh my gosh, I got to go talk about this. I know that if I go to an event and they say, hey, will you talk to us about that? You talked about being clear and concise. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Absolutely. The number one thing is you need to be clear, concise, and compelling. Clear, you know what I mean? And I can go through that because it's in me. And that's what I teach people public speaking. When I teach actual public speaking, you have to get your message in you, because once it's in you, it's easy to get out. And the only way you're going to get it in you is by practicing and practicing and practicing and going in the office and walking around and taking bullet points out, putting them in and doing it over and over again. Because it'll come a time, Wendy, that you won't need that at all.
Right. I know that is something I need to work on. With Chris and I have talked about that too, about preparing that one speech that you can take and you can use and you believe it and it's passionate. And I know helping when I have to write different things or change some things up, and I did this when I was on a speaker panel. I prepared and thought about it, and this was what it was going to be. And I started talking it out loud, and I thought something just doesn't feel right.
Yep.
It's just, it didn't express what I needed to. So at the last minute, I ended up adding in a different story because it needed to be believable. And I wanted people to understand that it came from my heart. Like you said, it's not just a written word that I'm just simply reading.
Yep.
And I think that's a really important piece to public speaking.
It is. It is. And that's the thing too. And that's what for people who like, cause so many people are like, I don't want to be a public speaker. I'm not on this call. I didn't take this class or whatever to be a public speaker. I have no desire. And that's why it's like, I understand that. But if you are starting out in your career and you have a goal to go from here to here, how are you going to get there? I can promise you, yes, it's from learning more. It's from, doing trainings and all that, but you're going to be looked over. You're going to be people, because you don't have that skill set of how do you communicate who you are. So a lot of times it's not even about being a public speaker. It's about communicating and getting together what we'll call it a keynote. It's not a
Right.
messaging about who you are. What is your brand? Where have you been? Where are you going? Where do you want to be? Present, past, present, future, right? And what do you have that? So when you're at a networking event, you might not have anything to teach or whatever, but when it's your turn, you can let them know, this is where I've been, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going. And then somebody may be sitting out there going, I need to go talk to that girl. We're looking for that in our company, right? So it's a super important skill set to have, no matter what position you're in, whether you're the one sitting out there saying, I need to develop a keynote, or whether you're the one sitting out there thinking, there's no way in heck that I ever want to stand in front of a group and talk about something, right?
Mhm.
You still need
Right.
to learn this skill set.
Yep, I agree. And I mean, to this day, I never thought I'd be doing public speaking like I do, totally outside my box. And to be honest, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, I mean, I still get nervous every time.
Sure.
I
And
mean, you know, because, and that's okay. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do it. I get too nervous. But even if it's a 5 minute, hey, this is what's coming up in the chamber next week at an event, or it's the whole thing, the whole keynote speech. I mean, it's okay to still be nervous about it. So I think that means you care
that's right.
and you want to do a good job. So, you know, I want to get that out to some folks too, because I know that's an important piece. It's okay to be nervous. Just prepare, like you said, and
Absolutely.
make it authentic and tell the stories and make it relatable.
And the thing is it doesn't matter, even for me, like you said, it's an anxiety, it's an anxiousness,
Hmm.
because usually you're passionate about what you want to talk
Right.
about. You're excited about this job interview. And so you're nervous because you want to do well, right? It's
Hmm.
not, it's so it's, that's the thing. And that's a good thing. So I can be standing up on, talking to 10 people and I'll get a little anxious, and because I want you guys to get it. Or I could
Right.
be going up to a stage and there's 10,000 people out there and it's the same thing that I'm feeling, right? Because you just want to do a good job, because you want people to understand what it is you're trying to say. And so as a keynote speaker, 100%, but even if I'm going into a meeting and I have a position that I want somebody to understand my position, I'm still going to be a little nervous because it's like, I want you guys to get this, right? So that's the power of it. And so, yeah, being nervous is great. It just means you care and you're passionate about what you're doing. And if you're new, you will get a sick to your stomach feeling, which is nerves. And that's
Yeah.
okay. But eventually that will subside once you start getting more confident in what you do and it becomes easier. So
You
yeah.
know, Lisa, one thing that I remember years ago, I heard somebody say that was really a game changer for me was when we get extreme anxiety, I'll say, because that nervousness is normal, like you said, but that extreme anxiety, a lot of times it's because we're worried about how we look, how we're gonna, it's all about, it's selfish, right? Like it's
I
self.
told you that. I think it was me that told you that.
It probably was, right? You probably,
It was
but
me.
but if
Yes,
we,
100%.
but if we look at it as what I'm getting ready to share is going to help my audience and it's about them,
Yep.
right? It changes the dynamic, I think, mentally for you. So,
Yes.
because we've all been there where it's like, okay, are they going to notice like this or this or this about what I'm dressed like or what did I stumble? Did I stutter? Blah, blah, blah. What I've learned, right, is that people don't care nearly about that. What I get a lot of times people say, you know what, I feel like I have connection with you. Like you're able to really just connect with people and be genuine, right? And so for me, I'm not a polished speaker that is a
Me
robot.
either. Yeah.
Right. But I think that's important for people to realize is that if you go in there and you genuinely want to help people
Yeah.
with whatever you're saying, and you know that your message matters, like you were talking about, I just think it shifts our mind. Like it doesn't change the message, it doesn't change you're getting on that stage, whatever that may look like. But I think how you approach it changes and it can ease. And I get excited then that energy shifts from
Yeah.
almost fear to excitement because I get to help these people with this topic.
Yes, that is so true. And I that was another huge lesson that I learned a long time ago with the doctors because what was happening in my mind sitting there at the table was I was focused on me. I was
Mm.
like, they're gonna think I'm don't know what I'm talking about. They are gonna not, they're gonna talk about me. They're gonna whisper about, and I was all focused on me. And it took that redirection in my thought process of like, you know what? It's not, this isn't about me.
Mhm.
This is about them. This is about my message that I'm passionate about. I'm going to deliver my message. If they don't like it, or even like with Gina, if they don't like it, if they're not vibing with it, that's none of my business, right? What people have to say about me is none of my business. You say whatever you want, right? Because I know that if I've helped one person back then understand better now, if I've helped one person with one thing, it was all worth it. So, and if you guys talk about me when I'm not around, that's not my business. You talk about me all you want. I don't care. Right. And that's how we all should feel. It's like, and then, so you're right, Chris. It's like take the focus off yourself and put it on. This is why I want this job. I want this job because of A, B, and C. This is
Mhm.
why I'm perfect for this job, and just believe in yourself enough to just deliver what it is you need to deliver.
Well, we're a little bit past 10:30. I want to
Yeah.
respect everybody's time, but if anybody has any other questions, I don't want to shut you down either. Is everybody good or?
And you guys, if you don't, you can reach out to me, Lisa at lisamoser.com, email me. I respond to all my emails. So feel free to say, hey, something hit me. What do I do about this? I'm happy to help.
Awesome. This was great. I really appreciate your time,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
This was
Thanks.
wonderful. And public speaking is so hard, and you made it seem a little bit less scary. So I
Oh,
appreciate
good.
that, and I'm sure all our guests did too. And I've seen on Facebook that people are already uh, viewing it too. So
Oh,
thank
wonderful.
you. I thank you so much for being a part of our business boost and appreciate all that you do. Hey, and do we have Chris, or how will they get information if people want to reach out to Lisa? Do you want to give
Yeah, I'll
it?
put that in. This will be a YouTube video as
Okay,
well, and I'll put that in the notes for the YouTube video, and then they can reach out that way with her email and her website.
Perfect.
perfect.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate your time too.
All
Thank
right,
you,
thanks,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye.
everybody for being
You.
here.